The Disrupt Education vlog can be found on YouTube. To hear it in podcast form, search Disrupt Education on any of the following podcast platforms: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or Stitcher.
Frank Miller returns, it's a battle of the gods. Superman, Bruce Wayne, pockets full of wads. The Dark Knight in his habitat, Jason with the rat-a-tat. Clark Kent possessed the laser attack. Katana's on a dead back, pool full of blood, gang banging on the flood. Whips stay superior, Hydro Man remains inferior. Universal Cruise with a silver exterior. Red skull pinned on the chest, got a black mask. Hail Hydra, Harley Quinn, girl, I love when I'm inside ya. Agent Carter's up next, Central Time, bruh.
Welcome to this episode of Disrupt Education. Danny Colin in the house.
Pleasure to be here.
It's the second time we're going through Throwbacks, nice. Numbers 11 through 20, and guess who's number 11? This guy. So we're going to jump right into his number 11, and then we'll come back from that and take a look and talk a little bit about what he said over and over and over again. Even today he said it.
Let's get it.
All right, let's roll it.
That's Aubrey, because a lot of people, they look at their career with a dollar sign. What can I do to make the most money? And I think Jim Carrey had this famous quote, I wish everybody would be rich and famous so they could realize that it's not the answer to everything, right? And it's not the answer to solve all the problems in the world. More money is equal to more problems. Yep. At the end of the day, you know, I would say find out what you love. Find out what your passion is. Be patient. Try different things. Yep. Try different things. I know Gary Vee says this all the time. Yeah. I don't know that these kids or people in general have tried enough things.
Right.
They just haven't tried enough things. How the heck do you know what you like if you haven't tried enough things? Right. So try different things. Find out what really drives you. Find out what you're passionate about. Find out what could help other people. Find out what could help yourself. Be a better person and contribute to society in the best way possible. And triple down on that, as Gary Vee says.
I love it. More money, more problems.
More money, more problems.
Students need more exposure to a bunch of different things.
Sure.
Constantly. So you just said that tonight as we were talking before we started filming.
Yeah.
And that was filmed, year and a half ago?
Yeah, a little bit over a year ago, for sure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about that message. Are we giving kids enough experiences in high school, in post-secondary?
Every individual is going to be different. Number one. So like maybe there are people that get excited about trying a bunch of different things, and then maybe there are people that just need to kind of try things at their own slow and steady pace. Right. You know, maybe it's a bunch of different things over the course of 10 years.
Right.
For me, it's a bunch of different things in a course of a year,
right.
You know?
Yeah.
But like I'm getting a taste of a lot of different things personally, and the more that I experience, you know, the more I learn,
right?
And it goes tandem with having an open mind. There's a lot of different factors, and your original question is, are we giving enough opportunities to kids? I think the opportunities are there. You know, they just got to soul search and figure out what they want,
right?
And then go after it. You know, I say a lot of times, like, you have some kids don't, but many kids, they have the opportunity for better. You just have to find that journey if you want it bad enough. Right?
Yeah.
And if you don't want it bad enough, you'll find excuses. And if you want it bad enough, you'll find the path. And part of this process for me, you know, is learning to love the process, learning to love the climb, man. It's part of my vocation and goal to finding success for me is just doing things enjoyable every single day, providing value, and living that balanced lifestyle.
Yeah.
And whatever it is I'm doing, I want to be excited about it so that other people see me getting excited, so that motivates them to find what they're excited about.
And along with that, we talked about the coaching model, like as a teacher being a coach. And I know you work a lot with this, but in a classroom going into you know, the climb, sometimes we got to get the kid to the base of the cliff, you know, and say, hey, you know what, this is kind of how we kind of filter this off. So I think a lot of these young people really, they see everything out there and they're just overwhelmed because there's much more information out there now than there was when we were. So
having a coach is definitely important. Like learning to figure out, our part of our job is finding a way to structureize things and put protocols into place to teach kids to teach.
Right.
And teach kids or teach people in general to be that coach, because ultimately, like, we find fulfillment when we're providing value to others and you see them grow.
Right.
I'm telling you, man, it's one of the things that fuels me every single day. Watching, my students grow, watching my clients grow, because I'm going on the journey with them.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely excited to go on a journey with them, whether it's a soccer season, whether it's a client that's just trying to get stronger and break some bad habits, or, kids in the classroom. Like, whatever it is I'm doing, dude, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about those different venues that I'm in, and I'm excited the message I'm preaching, which is, trying to optimize our human everything. Right. We want to try to enjoy as much as possible, but enjoying much as possible means that we have to, learn that there are going to be some things that punch you in the mouth along the way, and you got to love those moments just as much as you love the triumphant moments. So
that'll take us right into episode 12 with Steven Jackson, who's one of my favorite people. Steven Jackson talks a little bit about, like, understanding the self and bringing people's own stories into it. So let's take a look and we'll talk about this.
Let's take a look at Steven Jackson.
I think times have changed, and I think that even then they probably should have used that template. But, like, you have to build, and I can't stress it enough, to build relationships with these young people in the classroom that you have in front of you. And the traditional call and response, the teacher dictating, and then falsifying information. Like, what we have to do is change the curriculum, because the information that we got was false.
Right.
Like, and we know this, and it's documented, and yet we still teach our kids. That's why they approach school the way they approach it, because they look at it like, that didn't happen.
Right.
No, you're lying. So that's what I would do. I would start putting truth in schools, and you would start empowering people with schools.
So there you have it. What do you think?
Well, he first started talking about relationships and getting communication with kids and listening to them, and really just, learning every single day a little piece about them, so that you can go about structuring whatever it is that, the content, the way you're orchestrating a class, like, better, so that they can kind of buy into what you're selling.
Right.
And the more you ask them questions about, their personal interests, what they like to do, you find what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And, like, again, like, just like how I train clients and student athletes, whatever, like, you go on a journey with them, technically. And I find that when they know that you're on that journey with them, they will respect you way more. They will follow the things that you want them to follow, because they see it in you, right? It's part of my thing. It's like, you want to live a lifestyle that's inspirational to other people,
right?
Like, that's part of that relationship building right there.
Yeah.
People see what I'm doing. I want to make them a part of it somehow, some way, give them my expertise from my experience, and then bounce off ideas. If someone says, I'm really interested in this, I try to find something from my life to kind of, like, make them relate to
a little
that.
Empathy,
for sure.
Like, try to empathize. I think one of the interesting things here is, like, in the fitness world, which you're in, obviously a bunch of different worlds, but like the fitness world versus the world of teaching. Like, teaching is like, I'm just going to start the class off and start throwing curriculum at you. And there are teachers out there that do this. There's a lot of teachers that do. But if you came into that, like, not understanding, body style or mental, where people are in their physical fitness, or how much do they want to lose, or what kind of muscle do they want to gain.
Definitely a lot of factors.
You have to ask those questions first before you start building, right?
Sure.
It's the same thing in education. So you have to ask those questions. You have to see the lenses of everybody, because the lens that I have is not going to be the lens that you have. It's not going to be the lens of Steven Jackson or anybody else.
It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes, that people get into teaching or get into education because there's that authoritative factor to it. Like, I know better. I'm the adult. You're the student. So you have to listen to me. But, the thing is that, we're in changing times.
Yeah.
And if, as adults, as educators, if we're not adjusting with the times, if we're not seeing the shift in the change of minds of the kids and the way they're living life, then we're going to be lost. We're not going to find the most effective way to be an influence to them and teach them something of value. Yeah, man. I just think we got to change with times. We got to understand that, and again, continue that journey with the people and our colleagues too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like share these things with colleagues, not take things so personally, and grow as teachers, because the second we think we know it all is the day that it's the day we die, really.
And then respect is gone.
Right? Completely. So you got to be willing to be adaptable and change your mind as things change. Like the last 10 years, I keep saying this, we've learned more in the last 10 than we've did in the last 100.
You're right.
Right? And it's only that's going to keep getting smaller and smaller. The next 5 years, we're going to learn more than we did in the last, whatever.
Yeah.
So we got to be adaptable. We got to be interchangeable. It's part of my niche too, with the whole like movement, quiet practice, nutrition, breath work, meditation, purposeful vocation. Like the more all those things are in tune, like you can understand those things a little clearer.
Yeah.
But it's a day-to-day thing.
Right.
It's not, you never get it perfect.
Persistence.
You never get it perfect. You got to keep adjusting. It's tiring, man.
So a couple of ways to do this is actually up-and-coming rap superstar Luke Gaughan is on my next episode.
Yes.
And Luke talks a little bit about when he was in college and working on projects. So let's take a look at what Luke says.
Engaging. Like the most I've learned at college is when we're doing like group activities. The other week in my business structure class, we divided into different groups, and we got to, there was actually different levels of management, bottom management, middle, and top. And it was really fun to just try to work toward a common goal and kind of learn how managers, or how to properly manage people while balancing how much you had to pay them, while managing how well you have to treat them. And I learned that money isn't everything. People went on strike and stuff just when we offered them money. So I learned way more just hands-on and engaging. And homework is good to really hammer things down, but I think just too much can turn kids at the high school age off a little bit, in my opinion. Yeah. So I just think really hands-on, classroom, engaging learning, where kids are excited to go because they know they're going to get to interact with their peers.
Awesome.
That would have been a high school that I would have loved to go to.
All right, Luke puts it out there and tells us a little bit about hands-on learning. And he's talking about college, and he was in a management course with me as well, and did very good with hands-on work, but talked a lot about, in the episode, and you can take a look at it, talked a lot about like how just homework becomes monotonous. It's the same thing over and over, and it goes beyond just learning the basics. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, homework is interesting because, like, if it's given every day, like, just kids look at it as, like, a task. And it depends on what the content is. If it's math, like, the homework is so that you can practice the skills.
Right. When free throws, I'd say.
When I teach driver's ed, the homework is practice, like, the skills in the car with your parents, because, like, the more you practice the skills, the more it becomes muscle memory, and you can kind of do these things instinctively. But, you see kids copying papers constantly.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, I did it when I was a kid. It was just like, I think it's good to give them an understanding of there's responsibility. You got to get this done at a certain time, but now like that's being taken away because there's a bunch of redos.
Right.
So like you can always retake it if you didn't get the grade you wanted. So like now I look at it from another perspective. It's like, what's the point of it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I do think it has its benefits at times given the circumstance. But he talks about hands-on learning, and this is why I think it's important to do a bunch of things, because you learn through experience. So when I was a kid, I worked for my dad's fish store. So what am I learning there? I'm learning how to talk to people. I'm learning how to handle money. I'm learning how to, the customer's right. I'm learning how to give a service that's quality, a value to people so they keep coming back. Like this is the stuff that I didn't think about while I was doing it. But in retrospect, now that I'm constantly interacting with people and building a network, like those skills were something that I sharpened when I was 14. And I've continuously been sharpening since, now I'm 30 years old.
We always go back to you can't do a worksheet to learn how to ride a bike, right? I mean, it's the same thing. But there is pieces of that, like when you're dealing with something, like say you have to, if those challenges come up and you can actually write down responses to just kind of get the memorization going to where when it happens quickly and you need an answer quickly. But technology is coming up on that. So I like the way he talks about like, the project, and everybody's working towards a goal. And by the way, he mentions in there that basically not everybody's the same on that team. So he brings a humanistic look to it.
Yeah, he's taking into account of how people respond to certain things, which is, I think what Luke is saying there is definitely higher attuned. Like he's being empathetic and showing compassion to other people. I think it's something that's overlooked. The way we communicate to each other really dictates how things start to kind of develop and grow. Right? We can't keep yelling at each other.
Yeah.
We can't talk to each other in a negative light, or else things aren't going to get accomplished. We're not going to grow. As a group, we're not going to grow as a community or a school or whatever it is. So, like, being cognizant of that and how to treat people, and because not everyone's having a good day, we have to be mindful of that. Right. And hopefully things wherever you are start to develop over time. But like being cognizant of how you treat people and communication with people is super important.
Just understanding other people. Yeah. And I will say, just a quick shout out to Luke. I mean, if you just go ahead and take a look at that episode, because at the end he does a quick wrap. I was in that at the end, and it was horrible. But for me, he did a great job. So check him out. Now, we're going to go to Clayton Bertoletti. Clayton actually starts to talk a little bit about the motivation behind doing some of this stuff. What are the incentives? So let's take a look at Clayton's.
Well, I think that something that could, I think incentivizing it sort of to a degree makes it a lot more engaging. Like if kids have something to be excited about within school, I think that, like for me with the business management class, I got that position, and then it was like, okay, now I have this position, so now I can take the ball, and run with it. So I think that if you could create some sort of way that would get people excited, whether it be, I don't know, maybe something that seems to make sense in the real world. Because I think a lot of people, especially in high school, are just like so sick of their studies because it doesn't seem to apply to anything that seems meaningful. Right. History class, math class, like people are just, the thing you hear all the time is, how am I going to ever use this? Blah, blah, blah. So I think that if things could be a little bit more current or based on real world things that are happening right now, I guess, that might help.
So Clayton kind of put it in a piece where he was talking about what are the incentives, and the incentives for him. And I'll tell you his story, and everybody's out there. His story was basically, he was disconnected in a management class, and then when we started the ginormous project at the end of it, he was actually voted as or hired as the leader. And when that happened, a switch went on in him, and he was like, okay, wait. Now I can do this my way. So I feel like he didn't really understand the way that the whole class was before that moment was, you can build your own while you go through this curriculum. Now I'm in business curriculum, but he talks a little bit about like history and how does that connect and all these other things.
Yeah, so like with, that's a question that a lot of kids ask, and I remember asking it too. It's like, why would I need to know this? And an answer that I got, which I thought was really interesting, was it gives you another way to think about things. And, there's definitely something to that. You get yourself another way of thinking about whatever the content is. But now this guy gets in an opportunity to kind of lead the way he wants to lead. And he talks a little bit about getting people excited. Right. And I think every leader goes about that in a different way. You watch a bunch of coaches in the NBA or in the NFL or the English Premier League. They find ways to get their players excited to go and perform for them. Yeah. And, it's the same thing in business or in a department. It's like you want to get your team excited about working for you and like the thing that is what's important here. What's the objective? It's not like, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. We need to do that. Like,
that's what we do in school though, right?
There's a lot of there's a lot of fear-based things. I don't want to blanket everybody. Like, it's good that we talk about this. Other people here, teachers, having these conversations, I think it's super important. But yeah, man, it's like, how do you get your people that you're in charge of excited as opposed to like, how can I tell them what to do? Because then I've been part of teams where I wasn't excited for the leader. Right. Like I didn't care about going. I didn't want to do anything. It meant nothing to me. And then when that happens, like I don't see a long-term future. So now my mind starts going somewhere else. And like that's not ultimately advantageous to the group.
Right.
So, and I've been in leadership roles too, and I've made mistakes, but I've also had a lot of successes.
Yeah.
And, it all comes down to really how you get your team excited or your people excited, and how excited are you for what you're doing.
Exactly.
Like, maybe it's not a good role for you at the end if you're not getting your team excited.
Right.
Maybe you think it is, but you're going down this path that's beating a dead horse and nothing's getting accomplished.
Right.
So like maybe it's time to reevaluate that. But again, those are things that are very overlooked. And when you have title and a salary that's pumping you up, it's like I'm the man and that's it. But again, times change, people change, information changes. We got to be able to adapt and figure out new ways to keep things exciting. That's the bottom line.
And even we'll go right into the next one with Christian Harris.
Let's go.
He talks a little bit about like how you can see yourself in the curriculum, and if you can't, then you become disconnected. So let's take a look at his episode.
Let's take a look.
With me in school, there was always this disconnect. I would be sitting in history class, and I would learn about American heroes and our founding fathers that were people I was supposed to look up to, but that had enslaved my ancestors, although that part was usually left out. I would be sitting in science class and learning how to mix up chemicals and not understanding how it fit into a larger picture of my life. Or even the example I just gave about being in English class and learning the great authors like Shakespeare, and not being able to see myself in the text, and really feeling I should have been learning some other things. So as a high school student, I'm not sure I could have articulated that to you. It might have played out in a bad grade on a test, or acting up in the hallways, or not doing my homework. But now looking back, I can say I was disconnected, very disconnected with how school fit into my larger life and where I was trying to go, and even what I was doing on a day-to-day basis.
All right, Christian said something that resonates with so many students. If they don't see themselves in the curriculum, or how it fits in with who they are or what they're about, or with anything in reality, kind of the way Clayton said it, you become disconnected.
Yeah. Dude, that's interesting, man. We've got to find a way to, we got to find a way first to connect to people, but then also it's like find different ways to have kids think about how they can fit in different roles.
Right.
Because, you don't really know how you could add value if you don't have experience.
Right.
So leading those types of things, especially with kids, and the end goal is we want to teach kids to think critically.
Right.
So trying different things, putting yourself or visualizing yourself, imagining yourself in different roles, the managerial role, or maybe you're the Robin to Batman role, and that's okay too. Maybe you're this, maybe you're that, but you don't know until you visualize yourself in that situation.
I think a lot of teachers need to do, including myself, constantly improving, but need to really understand the lenses of everybody in the class and seek out those lenses, right? And that's the relationship part, but also then ask the questions. Okay, so we're learning about X, Y, and Z. How do you see X, Y, and Z? What are your thoughts on X, Y, and Z? And also making it a safe place for people to actually say that.
That's huge.
Those are the hardest things to do as a teacher. You got 25, 30, 31 kids in your class.
48 minutes at a time.
48 minutes at a time. So there's a lot of structural damaging things that are out there for students to do that. But what I like about what Christian is saying is that people don't articulate this when they're that young. We were talking off camera here about a job you had when you were 14. You didn't know the skills you were getting. You were getting them, and then later on you're figured it out. I think we can articulate that better, not to bash your old man for the
Let's
the
bash
push
him.
story.
Let's bash away. No, a lot of
But you see
quality.
what I'm saying? But in that moment, I like to tell the story that here's where this fits in with you right now. Potentially, you're not going to see it now, but if you constantly say that message, I don't know. I think Christian had a very good point here.
For sure, man. And that's part of the teacher's job to kind of recognize these things in their kids. Right. That's also, again, not an easy thing to do. I have a student who is just the DNA of this person is to teach. Yeah. And you can tell, Mr. C, can I show this kid how to do this? Can I show this kid how to do that? Like, they recognize they're having trouble. How can I figure out a way? And this kid is thinking, how can I figure out a way to add value to this kid? Like, naturally, at 15 years old, it's like,
that's brilliant.
whoa. So, like, I recognize that, and I'm like, you have what I had when I was little. Like, this natural inclination to, like, add value to somebody's life, or like be there to scaffold their learning.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, but maybe they didn't see that. But now that I told them that, maybe it's other thoughts going in the direction of how can I teach this? How can I get into this direction? Or how can I go in that direction? And maybe it's not teaching at all. Maybe it's like they're good with their hands, or maybe they're really good at following directions or keeping things organized. Whatever it is, like build off one of those kids' strengths, and then you'll see the area it kind of goes into. And then not just kids, but like if you're managing a staff of people, like adults, or whatever. And I think with adults, it may be, and with kids too, it doesn't matter. It's difficult because you got to manage ego. You got to manage communication. You got to talk about or manage the way you talk to people about things and all of that. Like there's so much that goes into that. But yeah,
it's a very challenging job.
Definitely.
However, I think we still can do better at understanding people, right? So what you were kind of talking about there, going into different directions, and there seems to be this one standard look. You go from high school to this next, college, and then you go here, and that seems to be the path that everybody wants to take. Our next video, Dino Andrews, who is a huge Oak Parker and just a great guy, talks a little bit about his path and a little bit about how the difference of paths should be. Let's take a look.
Let's go.
Play a large role in what that path looks like. So it shouldn't be, the regular path shouldn't be graduate from high school and go to college. And it also shouldn't be take a gap year or two and then go to college. It should be, what are you suited for? There's a lot of students here that are suited for, university, master's degrees, PhDs, MDs, whatever. And there's other students that they have an aptitude for mechanical things and mechanical engineering. And there's some that they just want to be hands-on, be a carpenter and, go into a union and build houses. And they're all valid and they're all valuable. And so I think the idea of setting kids up with the pressure that you have to go to a 4-year college right after you graduate is almost setting a lot of kids up for failure because they're just not ready for it.
So Dino hit it on the head, kind of where my disrupt education comes in. Everybody, high school, 4-year. Not always the right path. As a matter of fact, in his interview, if you look at it, he will tell us, he told the viewers, he took 8 years before he went into college. He's very successful, a great consultant, does a lot of work for the community. What do you think?
Man, the right path, the wrong path. Like he touches on like kids and having different skills. I think, look, a lot of people, they go to college because it's what they think they have to do. It might be the right thing for them. It may not be the right thing. The unfortunate thing is, like, we talked and we looked at Bennett's. We looked forward to his. Like, it could be a really big financial mistake.
Is $1.7 trillion in college debt right now.
And that's really an issue. Like, it shouldn't be so damn expensive.
Right. It
shouldn't. That's the one. Like, I don't think we'd be having this conversation about college if it's the right or wrong thing if it wasn't so damn expensive.
Right.
If it was something like in Europe where it's like 5,000, 7,000, 8,000, whatever it is, like, go to 4-year school. Like, enjoy. Like, there's so much that you can do at a 4-year school and people that you can meet and things that you can do and create opportunity. Like you went to college, I went to college. It was part of what we needed to do to become an educator and be a teacher in the system. And I had a great time in college, but before I found the college that was right for me, I made those financial mistakes.
Right.
I went to a school that wasn't right for me, and then I took a few years off, and I went into the personal training field, and I learned a lot, and I took things day at a time, year at a time, and you kind of you're honest with yourself, and you grow, and you say, I want to go through this, and maybe that thing is college.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that's what I love about this interview with Dino, is because he does talk about his path, and he was like, I did this and I learned this, and I did this and I learned this, and by this he hit a spot where he felt it intellectually he was hitting a space where he needed to learn more, and that's when he decided to go to college. right? It wasn't less, when you're 17, 18 years old, or even 16 now, because they're trying to get people to think about it, and we'll see that in the next one. But take your time, because it's not a race. I mean, that was
your time is so important, because everyone grows at their own pace, man. Like with the fitness thing and the college thing, I don't think I went to college, and this sounds so sad, but I didn't go to college so that I could learn more.
Right.
Like, I don't think I was a good teacher at the end of my 4 years of teaching or graduating college. Like, I went to college to jump through all the hoops. And I know that sounds really bad, but like there's so many hoops you have to jump through to be a certified teacher in Illinois.
Right.
And it gets a little bit more hectic, and the tests you got to pass, and it's a business, right? It's no different than, the SATs and the ACTs. Like that's unfortunately a business.
It's a business.
And I didn't learn a ton about teaching. I learned a lot about the structure of everything.
Right.
The loops that you got to jump through really is what I've learned. And then, I played football, and I got to meet a lot of people. In college, I had a job where I was getting connected with a whole bunch of people, and it's serving me today.
Right.
Like I worked in a gym in Oak Park. I had goals set for myself, like specific goals that I was working towards. Like student teaching at Oak Park was one of them, and getting a job there eventually was one of them. Building up a fitness business was one of them. Playing football was one of them. And like, when you say you're going to do something, you do it. You meet people when you say you're going to meet them. You deliver when you say you're going to deliver, and you build a reputation with people. And like little by little, people realize, hey, that guy's reliable. Hey, this guy's reliable. And then you could kind of use those things to your advantage in whatever ways that you see or visualize yourself going in which direction. So like, I learned all that outside of college while I was in college. Right. You know what I'm saying?
I think, going to, we'll look at Bennett's, but he talks about that, and that message that you're saying right there is something that is muddled at the high school level. And I don't think kids are getting that message. Let's take a look at Bennett's.
Bennett's a special kid.
When I had my first college meeting at the school as a junior, I went to one of the computer labs. We all sat down. We went straight into the process of like applying, Naviance, all this stuff. What is FAFSA? What is all this? There wasn't really any talk, unless you sought it out, about your other paths. And I really think they need to give these students other ideas. Because I've seen with people who are older than me and people who are in my same grade who are just going to college just for the sake of going, where they're kind of given this notion through assimilation of everybody in these grade levels where, all right, I just finished high school, so I guess it's time to go to college. When in reality, it's a huge investment into your future. And if you don't take it seriously, it can very potentially harm you.
Let me start by saying this, though. Like, this is one of the cool paradigms of being an educator and being a teacher is, when I was student teaching, I taught Bennett when he was a freshman. Yeah. And then to see this, years later, and how he's like so articulate and, like he's using his words properly, and he's thinking critically, like he's raising awareness to these things, which is, I think is important to see that manifest over time. It's really cool. And it's one of the really cool things about being a teacher, and fuels me every single day. Right. But
I mean, going into, as a junior, you're shoveled into this room. All right, maybe not shoveled. Maybe it's a little harsh, but like everybody has to go into Naviance or whatever the college thing is, right? And it's supposed to be career, but it never is. And basically what he's saying is no one's asking questions here. No one's saying, oh, there's a different path for you here. You need to get yourself into a list of 20 different colleges. You need to get 5 letters of recs, and let's get this done today, That's the experience that I've seen in a lot of schools. I've taught in 4 different schools. Every single one of them had this experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the process. It's part of a business, unfortunately. And, it does provide kid opportunities. Again, it's just super expensive. And it could really cost...
I'll go back to it, $1.7 trillion in debt.
Yeah, it's messed up, man. Create your own struggle. There's options. Create your own journey. You have different ways to go about it, and calm. And I think this is a process that adds a lot of anxiety and stress to to kids,
Yeah.
even though it is an opportunistic thing.
Right.
It's a good thing to kind of like go through to kind of just see if it's your thing, if it's not. But hopefully they don't get the whole financial mishap and go into huge debt, because then you're like a slave to that.
And I think
that's unfortunate.
I think that part is left out. I don't hear a lot of people at the high school level actually talking. Like when I see somebody with a picture of a cap and gown and they're getting their bachelor's degree, they're getting their master's degree or whatever, I see a dollar sign, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's not the right thing to see, and it's good for this person because they accepted the challenge and they got through it. But why does that have to be the challenge? And basically for me, like, how much is that person in debt? Because we know, I don't know, 80% of those the people who go into college are going to come out with debt, and that might be a low percentage.
It's an investment you make in yourself, and at the end of the day, debt is debt. Everyone is going to be in some form of debt, I think.
ROI is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What is the return on investment?
Right. We definitely want to look at ROI. And that's part of the journey. It's part of the struggle. Like, be wise about this. I'm going to be very frank with kids. Like, be wise about it. If you have parents that can contribute to this, then and that's okay. It's not like this where they're putting out a second mortgage on the house. Like my parents are blue collar people. They didn't have a ton of money. I made a lot of my decisions based on my parents' income.
Right.
And like I'm not gonna say suffered. I had a good life. I was very loved and very
It's not over, man. Just start.
Growing up, I was very fortunate. I wasn't like privileged like crazy. Like I didn't go on tons of vacations and but we had enough. Like we did our thing and I knew that paying for college wasn't in like the cards for me.
Right.
I knew that loans were going to be the thing, and I'm still paying them back.
But you realize that before you went in. I think there's a lot of students who don't realize that this is going to be X amount, or when they sign the FAFSA document that they're like, I'm done. And I've heard students say this, and we can talk about this a little bit more later, but like students will say, yeah, you know what? I'm getting a huge like FAFSA loan. It's all covered. And it's like, no. It's not covered. Like you have to pay. And I think there's a lot of misconception.
And then there's like loan forbearance and then forgiveness. Like if you're a teacher, they say that after 10 years, but then there's stipulations. Like I'm pretty sure that you have to make an X amount of payments over X amount of years and be teaching in a certain district in a certain area for X amount of time before that stuff gets forgiven. It does get forgiven sometimes, but sometimes you're not, and you're stuck paying it. So hopefully, like whatever profession you go into, I hear this with kids. They want to go into business, university for business. I don't really know what kind of business I want to go into. Like you have to invest money in a business. There's so many things they need to know before they walk into those doors. Because why am I going to pay the first couple of years $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to find out what kind of business I want to do? I got a better way. Yeah, man.
We'll talk about
Let's
that
talk
later.
about that.
So, for sure. Let's go into Juanita. Juanita's got a different look at education, and she basically talks about how other students really need. It goes back to that lens thing and understanding different people and being exposed to different things. So let's take a look at Juanita.
Earlier, but I'm just super thankful for my major and the things that I've learned about people and about decision making and creating ideas to persuade or even just support or understand even, not even specifically to drive revenue, but just awareness. It's not all about just sort of like the making money aspect. So I want to say I would go back into it wanting to be just like more aware and understanding of like other people, of myself, of what I want to do and like the future.
All right, more on empathy there. What do you think? What do you think about what Juanita was saying there?
I think Juanita, basically what she was saying is like you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be honest with what you want, the direction you want to go in, the life you want to live. She talked about the future, right? And that comes with like really being honest with what fulfills you and knowing yourself and how you want to grow ultimately.
Right.
So I think that's what she was talking about. And looking back at it, probably going into college, like she wanted to understand that a little bit more. It's hard for an 18-year-old to to do that because they're raging with hormones.
Yeah.
They do natural human things and like they want to show superiority over each other.
Yep.
Like this is how we've evolved, and we got to look at instead of like putting ourselves in like these divisions and separating ourselves, like we got to understand that we're all human. We all are looking for the same things, to be accepted, to be loved, and adding value to each other with our vocation. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we're going to grow as a people, as a society, as humanity. No matter where you come from, what you believe in, what cultures you are, we are human, and we're all looking for love, man. And
just building each other up. That's huge.
Yeah.
I think in high school, I don't think there's enough curriculum. It's competition, but I think this is the name of the game, right? It's a zero-sum game. I win, you lose, and I feel like if we're gonna change education, we have to change it to be kind of individualistic, where you be your best person, I'll be my best person, and by the way, while we do that, we help each other be our best group.
Yeah. Definitely, but again, that's hard to understand, especially when you lack perspective.
Yeah,
a lot of times it's I want that promotion over you.
Right.
I want to make more money over you.
Yeah.
And I want to have that girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it is. And status and there's so much that is attractive to the egotistical human that will separate us. But at the end of the day, man. Like, if you're bringing people down to kind of get yourself in or undercutting people, like, you're not going to be happy.
Right.
And you're not going to get what you want.
Right.
I
mean, like you said, even starting, this one almost goes all the way back to I don't know, episode 11 with this crazy guy. She does talk about, it's not just about money. I mean, she said it there too, right? Like, it's more about understanding and somewhere along the way, we've lost that.
I'll tell you this, man. If you can keep working on yourself every single day and working on how you can provide value to others, the money's going to come.
Yeah.
Period. Bottom line. And not just money, but like living optimally.
Yeah.
Because if you're not true to yourself from the get-go and you go down this path of, I don't want to say a lie, but like something you're not being honest with, it's going to manifest itself in some ugly way and it's going to be something that you're going to have to deal with eventually. Maybe not right away, maybe not short term, but it's going to come up, man. Yeah. It's going to come up somewhere.
It's a yin-yang, man.
Yeah, it really is. And money, again, plays a role. You have to fund yourself, but it is not everything.
It's not everything.
And how much money do you actually need? You'll get, what do they say, 90,000, 80,000 is, and if you're making 40,000, you're in the top 3% or whatever. Yeah. But if you're making like after 90,000, it doesn't matter. Like you can still live that consistent lifestyle. We're not going to be getting jets and going over to Dubai all the time. But like we could,
kind of be fun,
right? And you could set yourself up. If you wanted to do that,
if you wanted to do it,
you can.
You move it,
right? But like it isn't everything. Like I said, you follow your heart. You're honest with yourself. You help value. You add value to people. The money's going to come.
So this takes us into Jonathan Beach. Jonathan is an amazing individual. He wrote at the end of this episode, this next episode. Check out the full episode. He wrote a beautiful poem about how it was a spoken word poem about how he basically pulled himself out of a mindset, right? But this piece here is something that goes into. It's how somebody could be like put into a damaging mindset. So he gets a little bit serious about choosing favorites in the classroom. Let's take a look at Jonathan.
Let's take a look at Jonathan.
Base this off of what I saw when I was in high school. What I saw in high school was sometimes the teachers would play favorites to some students and then leave the other students out. I would feel I think there should be more equality in the classroom so everyone can get the same opportunity instead of just focusing on one student.
That when I picked that piece to show, it was something that was harsh because Jonathan, a lot of that came from his spoken word club and they were picking of favorites. And you see this a lot. It's easier sometimes to teach a kid that is like you or is easier in the classroom. Sure. They'll just put their head down and do the notes and make sure life easier. I've always tried to look for the opposite, honestly, and I'm not here patting myself on the back. It's just what I enjoy doing.
Thank you.
But this is something where I think some of the mindsets of our young can get into, get in their own way. They start thinking, okay, I'm not good enough. What makes that person better than me? And then the competition level gets to a point where we start damaging each other. What are your thoughts on that in the classroom?
Whew.
Yeah, I know. I just loaded that one on.
There's so much to unpack there. Picking favorites. I don't want to paint a picture with a broad brush here. But there are teachers that approach things differently.
Right.
Whether they're teaching to somebody who's more like them or whatever, it's our obligation as educators to connect with each kid. I don't care. What it takes. You got to connect somehow, some way, whether it's just a hello, whether you got a secret handshake, or whether there's something that kid gets lit up when you talk about, whatever it is, throw that piece in there because it starts to build confidence. It's part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The ultimate goal is to become self-actualized. Figure out a way that you can create something and add value, like what we're doing right here, right? Like we're doing something passionate. It's great. But and we work on it every day. But now, part of our job is to instill the confidence in each kid to figure out what that is in their life or how it's going to pertain in their life. So finding those pieces little by little is something that every teacher is obligated to do.
Right.
And after you get tenured and you're making X amount of dollars, you can kind of just be like, I don't give a shit.
Right.
What's my motivation anymore?
Right.
But here's the motivation. Our freaking future of people.
Yeah.
Okay? We have to understand that we have a superpower.
Yeah.
The way we speak to people, the way we speak to kids will change the trajectory of their life. Whether you think it is or whether you think you are or you're not.
Right.
And there's a million things that can play a factor. But you could be that soul piece that really speaks to the soul of that individual, that lights them up to go on this crazy path. I know I try to do that every single day.
Right.
Because why? I'm lit up.
Yeah.
I know it shows. I don't give a shit who believes me or not, because I know and it shows in what I'm doing with my business, with coaching, and I know that, and the way I structure myself. And again, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I just want to lead by example.
Right.
And I'm not perfect. I make mistakes constantly.
Yeah.
But it's part of our obligation. We have to figure out and help them navigate what lights them on fire.
You know what? And along with that, you're like, I'm not perfect, and that's the humbleness I think that as educators and in the system we need more of. I've made mistakes with students. I've yelled at students. I've probably marginalized students.
You're
I
human.
know I have.
You get emotional.
But here's the best thing that I learn out of that is when I go to that student later on and I apologize and I say, look, you know what? I was harsh on you, or tell me how else I can help you, because I'm just getting frustrated because blah, 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 and I'm not perfect. And admitting your failures in front of students, if somebody told Jonathan, look, man, if they listened or maybe even observed, he's kind of being out here in the corner and no one's really talking to him, you have to be like, you know what, Jonathan, I'm kind of seeing you pull away. I'm probably part of that, and that's every time as a teacher I always say that I'm part of this.
Yeah, for sure.
So because we're in the room together.
Yeah.
Right, and then you start to figure things out, and then you start to build that confidence.
Definitely, man. I think it's part of being a leader.
Yeah,
you got to admit your faults, and it's part of growing. It's part of being a better teacher. You're human. You're gonna make mistakes, and you got to acknowledge them. And then I think that's a connection piece.
Yeah.
Right, because then the kid sees, oh, you're human too. You're a real person. You really are thinking about my best interests.
Right.
So it's a good way to build relationships, I think.
So we're gonna pivot into the last episode, number 20. Number 20 is Professor Daryl Allen, a very good friend of mine. And if you couldn't do this, he would be sitting here. Just but you're number one, bro. But as a father, coming into looking at what our children are going to see at the next level and demanding as a taxpayer and as a person who puts money into a system. Let's just watch this clip.
Let's watch it.
We'll end this whole thing after this. Daryl Allen.
The system won't move unless we move it. So what I hope to see in those years is that our children, they learn skills that make them more curious and make them more creative. Because as our kids become more creative and more curious, they're going to challenge what goes on in their classrooms. They're going to challenge what the expected outcomes are. And the system will move from the inside out the same way that a balloon is blown up by pushing and forcing air in so that the structure looks different, not because you asked the structure to change, but because you forced the information, the air into the balloon, therefore it must change. So that's what I see for our children, because as our children follow their dreams, as they learn how to be disciplined, as they learn how to read and research for themselves, the project-based learning will give them the questions, and now we can give them the resources to find the answers. And those who find the answers first, Singapore, those who find the answers first, India, those who find the answers first, the United States, as we do that, we set what the tone is. And it's one thing to try to transform the world for everyone. It's another thing to say, are our children being transformed, and are they being part of the transformation? So my hope is that, probably similar to you, my son could read before he went to school. My son could do math at a very high level before he went to school. I don't want to slow down his progress by putting him in school.
Right. Isn't that crazy?
I don't want to slow down anyone's life chances by putting them in an environment where the structures tell them you're going to be less than because we're not ready for you to be more than.
We are going to slow you down because we're not ready for you. Mind blown, dude. That is my vision right there. That is why I do what I do. That is why I feel we need to disrupt education.
Yes. Listen, here's the thing, though. We have to be intelligent in the way we go about this, because if we shake up the system too much, the system will crush us. And it usually takes time for systems to change. It takes a long time, longer than we want it. That's why we are who we are, and we're trying to make a difference. So, I really think that we have to go about this intelligently. And wow, I don't want, like he said I don't want to slow my son's progress by putting him in this environment that's slowing him down. These are words of wisdom that make people think. But then again, man, like I said, the system takes time to change, and we just got to find subtle ways. We have to find innovative ways so that we could, start to change things little by little. I think we're doing that. And we want to be, like, naturally we're outcome oriented.
Right.
We talk about the climb, we talk about the journey. But keep doing conversations like this. Keep putting it out there little by little. And like you see kids like Bennett and the next generations, they're going to ask those questions. And they're going to be the ones running shit in a little while.
Right.
So I'm an optimist, man. I'm usually very optimistic about how things roll. And, if people like you are at the helm, and, I'll figure out a way to make my impact, as I go, whether that's in education or whether that's, business, teaching fitness, whatever it is, like, things are going to change,
right?
I think they're changing.
And
already.
Thank you for saying that, because for me, like, I get so excited about this stuff.
I know you do.
And that's why we work well together, because I'm just like, I'm going to put the pedal to the metal, and you're like, wait a minute, we got to put a little bit of gas in the car, right? Like, I'm an auto guy, so I always say,
I'm a driver ed teacher too.
Well, yeah, there you go.
So
right?
At least I like to say coast.
Coast.
Apply pressure to the brake if you have to, and then gas it up when you need to.
So, but what I see, even for my children, I know Daryl's doing this with his child as well, is you know what? Our kids are going to be part of the system, but outside of that system, I'm going to teach my kid the Uber way. And I think here's why I'm so passionate about this, because of the people out there who are struggling, marginalized. There's a lot of isms. Those individuals who don't have the moms and dads like we are, or like we have. that's why I get extremely passionate about this. I think when a paradigm shift happens, and it's happening in education, you're right. And
Slowly,
we do have to go about this in a smart way. But when I see it happening, I see an opportunity. It's another way to not erase the past, but to clear the slate and let's start over, and it can become equal fit, right? Not equal opportunity. It becomes equal fit. So equal fit is where a lot of everybody actually fits into whatever they're learning, and then they learn that way. It's a huge concept. It's way before its time.
It's interesting.
But, yeah.
It's interesting because, there's going to be a lot of individuals that put a lot of effort, and there's going to be a lot of individuals who don't put as much effort, so the outcome isn't going to be the same.
Right.
But you know what? Every individual is going to be creating their own path.
Exactly.
And I think that should be, that's the premise of equal fit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's an interesting topic. Again, going about this, intelligently is going to be key, because I'm a passionate individual myself, and that's why I like being around you, because I feed off that energy. But, I've learned that it could rub people the wrong way sometimes in my life. I know that I can come off very strong about things, and I don't, the last thing I want to do is turn somebody off to the things that I'm about to preach and the things that I feel strongly about, So I realize that people come around at their own time, and, if you just stay consistent with your message and you stay calm with your message, that little by little it will infiltrate the system, because the people that we're talking to, they're going to be the ones running the show.
Right. Oh yeah, right. Right. I mean, there's 10 people here, including yourself. I'll throw you in there, that are going to be running, they're going to be leaders in the industries that are next, right? I mean, you see it here. What are some common, 2 or 3 common themes out of the last 10 episodes we saw?
Passion, finding yourself, doing the things that you love, making every day feel like Saturday. I'm a huge advocate of that, because there's a lot of kids that fall into the rut of, it's Monday and this is stupid. Or it's why don't you change today? Because it's Monday, I hate it. And it's why aren't you going to do anything today? It's Friday. Oh, it's Friday, I'm going to take a day off. So this mindset is we're living for the weekend. Right. It's dead.
Just living for the day. Get up and go.
Yes, right. So I think that's something... understanding the pros and cons of the understanding the different journeys that you can take that are out there that you have. I think that's something that we've touched on. And I just think, we're talking about mentorship. We're talking about communication. We're talking about collaboration, building each other up. Right. I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do here with this, right? We see this system that is failing a lot of people. It's not really providing them with a ton of skills. It is, but it isn't. Enough to where we have to ask these questions. Right. So at the end of the day, we're trying to grow our society, right? So ultimately, we're sitting here together, trying to find an alternative system here so that we can better humanity, we can better people, right? Exactly. And I think that's what this takeaway is. And we got to be patient. We just got to keep consistent with our message. And, I want to preach that to kids too. Be consistent with what you want to do. And if it's not what you want to do, then be honest with yourself and change the direction. You can. Right. We live in the best time ever to be alive. Right. 2019, going into 2020, we're learning more, we got to learn to be more connected with each other. I think that's another thing that we talked about: connection to each other, connection to the earth, connection to different kinds of people, connection to the work that we do, the products we make, the things we say. Hold ourselves accountable, hold each other accountable. I think these are all really important things. Live an honest life, give, and we have the more you do. When it comes to preaching a positive message, it has these ripple effects. When you inspire somebody, that then they're over a course of their lifetime, they're going to know 1,000 people that they're going to impact. And whether you think you did or not, you've played a role in impacting that 1,000 people. So if you do something negative to impact somebody, that can have a negative ripple, and it could be an issue in your life eventually. But if you keep doing the positive, if you keep preaching your same loving, passionate message, things are going to work out. Financially, it'll work out. Right. You'll attract the right people. You'll attract the right opportunities. You'll learn learning, you're
Yeah.
growing. You'll make something of yourself
Right.
eventually. Don't be so focused on the outcome. Be more focused on the journey and the process, and,
Right.
and take the punches and be happy about the punches and the adversity just as much as you are about the promotions and the successes.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
those are sharpening your tools, man. And it's hard to see that in the time that it's happening to you. It's really hard to see that, you get ripped from a teaching job. It's
Right.
like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. I
Yeah.
hate teaching forever. And
Right.
I've went down that road. But like, it helped me so much learn about the next thing and the process and
Those are the things like those ups and downs. I've seen it before. Like and they show the kind of heart monitor. Like if you're not up and down in life, you're dead, right? Because it's a flat line. I saw that on my Instagram earlier today. But yeah, overall, I think all these guests talked about those things. They talked about look, we need to understand people better, and then just basically learn how to lift each other up. And you know what? Money isn't the outcome, man. Fulfillment is. So
fulfillment, purpose,
Yeah.
value, and you do all those things, the money will come. You just got to be
Right.
responsible about it,
Right.
and look at it in an intelligent way, and hopefully you learn every day.
excellent.
Dude, this was awesome.
Thank you, Danny. Check him out. We'll put all his stuff underneath.
Danny Cola Fitness, Danny
he's gonna
Cola
go through it.
Podcast, DannyCola.com, Steel Mace Oak Park.
It's all here, man.
Yeah, man. Like this, it's turning. I mean, it's just like, again, I'm doing my thing.
I love it.
I'm rolling with the punches, and like, listen to the message that I say. It's the
Yeah.
same shit every
Yeah.
time, and like, I'm doing my thing, and I'm building up businesses.
Students are lucky to have you either as a fitness coach, a mentor, a teacher, and especially a driver's ed teacher. I feel a little safer. So
It means a lot, man. It means a lot
yeah.
coming from you. Like, I work hard at this every day, and I'm not perfect. And
Yeah.
I want to be the best version of me every single day. And I'm not all the time. And
Yeah.
it's I get tired. And
We
I
all do.
You
We
know,
all-
I don't
yeah.
want to. Sometimes I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I just want to relax and like watch TV and eat shitty food. Like, that's normal, and it's okay. Like, when that's the time, like, rest.
Yeah.
But then when you're done, get your ass up.
Yeah, and go.
Get up early, do your routine, find your thing, write your stuff down, visualize your goals, do your breath work, exercise, eat quality, be around the right people. Like, all that is important to understanding like the information that's coming at you.
Yeah, and that's a perfect way to end this throwback.
Sweet.
I want to thank all the guests that were on episodes 11 through 20. Another throwback will be coming out soon. Thank you so much,
Absolutely,
Sam.
dude. You're an inspiration to me. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me, and I'm glad to be here.
All right, guys. Keep
you
disrupting.
later.
We'll see you next time.
Disrupt.